Hello, hello. It is Wednesday evening. And if you didn't notice, Heather is back. Mike did an all right job standing in for you, Heather. So just
Oh,
so you know,
come on.
he was okay.
No, hey, you can't pick on the guy on his birthday week, okay? You
That's a very good
know?
point. That is a very good point. um, so, anyone who does not know what this show is or what we do here, while we are not cracking jokes and being wise guys, myself and Heather, we run How to CPCu. So this is a live cast and a recorded vlog, indirectly put on by the CPCu Society and the volunteers of the Society, just to give people tips, tricks, talk about the value that the Society brings to insurance professionals, especially ones that are in the Society, and anyone who might want to become part of the Cool Kids Club and get their CPC designation and come hang out with us and reap all of the rewards that come with it. So definitely make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely put the notification bell on so that you know when we go live, and you also know when these recorded episodes get put up there on the YouTube channel and all of that good stuff. We may or may not have. I see someone hovering in our green room, so to speak. I did extend the invite to Precious Norman Walton, who is my co-host of Sell Like a CPCU. Do a little cross-mogenation going on here with the two shows, which would be fantastic. We'll see if we can get. I don't know if she's having a connectivity issue or not, but we'll see if we can't get that working. But this week we are talking about leadership and basically making leaders. The first question I have for you is one that's like a existential philosophical question. Do you think that leaders are born or that they are made?
100% believe that leaders are made. Because it is now, while there are people out there who have that natural drive to want to be a leader, I think, or
Yeah.
have that kind of motivation intrinsically somehow, maybe in their DNA, to lead.
Yeah.
I do believe leaders can be made. Um, and it's all about intentionality, just like you guys talked about in the Cell Like CPCU that happened just a little while ago. It's about being intentional about wanting to develop that skill set.
Most definitely.
And it's about being focused on, having that growth mindset enough in your life that you're not going to allow failures and things that trip you up to just make you stop and not want to engage anymore. Those things actually push you to say, I can do more, I can learn more, I can grow more. But yeah, leaders are definitely, in my opinion, I would say like 99.8% made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so looks like we might have a good connection here. Let me pull her into Precious. You are in the mix here. What would you say? Are leaders born or are they made?
I'm hanging out with the cool kids today, man. I get extra
Woo
energy.
woo.
It's great. Uh, I agree with Heather. I think that, leadership, just like with anything else, you can have raw talent, but it's got to be cultivated, and that there's certain things just from a learning curve standpoint that you have to, whether they're situational or more classic training. They talk about born leaders, and while, again, people can have um, they may have the temperament for it. There's very few things in life, I think, that can't be finessed and better honed by opportunities to learn and grow in that area.
Definitely. Yeah. Tony said you made the move to prime time, Precious. You ranked up a little bit here. We're in the high volume area of the programming.
Sweet.
All right. Yeah. No, I'm totally with you guys. I think the skill set of leadership is such that no one is born with it, right? So I think some people have some innate maybe propensity, like the kid who, like, any of your kids who's like they just have a propensity, and you're like, they're going to be the quarterback of the football team, right? It's not a certainty, but there can be some propensity. But that doesn't mean that leaders can't also come from, people that you wouldn't have pinned them as a leader immediately. And not to mention the fact that it's not just the quarterback of the football team who can be the leader, right? You can have leaders of all different types. Just sticking with the QB mantra, one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time, me being a Giants fan, is Eli Manning. Someone who is not demonstrative, not outspoken, not larger than life, just a workman-like, do your job, so much so that my friends would pick on him specifically. I think it was, they were a little jealous, but my friends would pick on him specifically because he would just have this look on his face like he was not even, not that he wasn't interested, he just wasn't fazed. Like, it was just something where, he would kind of just plow ahead and do his job. And lead by example. So I think that's a good question to kind of like parlay that into. Who do you think of, not that we want to put anyone on blast, but who do you think of as a good leader, in whether it's been someone that you've been personally associated with from a leadership standpoint, or if it's just someone who's kind of like a pop culture-y or popular person that's out there in the media that you would kind of look to and say, all right, that's someone that I see embodies kind of like those characteristics of leadership. I'll kick it to Heather first.
Goodness, you're giving me the tough question here
On the spot.
because we're here to talk tonight about, how CPCu makes leaders basically, and how it develops people into leaders. But I would,
I hear Tony's giving out commission for people that are giving him props,
yeah.
so could be a little side hustle for you. I'm just saying. No, I'm kidding.
I look to leaders in the smallest places and the small things that they do, because it's really in the end the small things that matter. And some of the leaders that have been most influential to me are just those people who have done those really small things for me in my life. And they don't ask for the credit. They don't ask for they don't ask for the recognition of I don't need the accolades. They're a little like Eli Manning. They're just unfazed, and they're doing their job. I would say a leader that I always look to whenever I first started in the industry is somebody who kind of took my hand and said, "You can do this," and that's Joanne Pickle. Honestly, she's been on our show here. She is contagious with her enthusiasm about things. Obviously, we saw, we know that. And I, as I kind of grew in the industry as well, you find those leaders attract people merely because they have that contagious enthusiasm in what they do. But Joanne, coming in new to the industry, I was like, I don't know anything about insurance. What am I doing here? They told me I'm going to make decisions and write checks is what they told me. What I found was that those people who were willing to just step beside me and say, you can do this, and here's a good way how to do it, but you got to figure this out on your own as well. You got to figure out your own style. Are those people who have been incredibly influential. But Joanne was definitely the number one for me, because she plopped me down and said, I'm gonna not just go the way and expect you to follow. I'm gonna show the way, and then I'm gonna ask you to show me your way as well.
That's interesting. What about you, Precious? Who do you, if I say the word leadership, little thought experiment, who kind of like comes to mind if you close your eyes and imagine someone?
So for me, it definitely has to be the very first agency owner I worked for. So shout out to Derek Gatson in Shreveport, Louisiana, State Farm agent. And what I really appreciated about his leadership style is that he respected and regarded each of us as professionals, regardless of where we were in our career path. So that was, as a matter of fact, I got my PNC license while working for him. And while he was an established agent, he had worked in operations for State Farm before he went into agency. He's one of those rare folks that I think his degree is in insurance.
Hmm.
So it's like all he, wanted to be, what he went to school for. But even when I was bright eyed and bushy tailed and had all these wild and crazy, ideas for how I wanted to market and grow, he never like ridiculed me or laughed at me for wanting to think outside of the box. He was always very supportive of get out there, you're going to try, you're going to stumble, you may fail, and that's okay.
Hmm.
But I really think when I think of him, the term that's really synonymous with who he is the servant leadership mentality.
Mm.
And if you're not ready to serve, you're not ready to lead. you know and so rather than constantly kind of holding it over my head about how again, he was my boss, he wrote my checks, it was his agency, his name on the door, he really would pull people in as business partners
Yeah.
and really give you the challenge and allow you to apply pressure to rise to the occasion. So very much like Heather said, it was kind of a combination of not allowing me to hide behind my own excuses
Hmm.
for why I couldn't do a thing, and just being very supportive and encouraging. And, I jokingly say to this day, had it not been for the fact that I relocated to Dallas, I probably still would have been very content and still working in his agency, selling, all the premium I could, because he led from a position of encouragement and not fear.
Mm. That
Okay,
those.
okay, precious. Worlds are colliding here. All right. When I first started at State Farm, obviously I handled claims for the state of Louisiana. I know Derek Gatson. Fantastic guy. And everything that you speak to him about is 100% accurate. That whole mindset of the servant leader just emanates through everything that he is. I can tell you that, and that's another quality that I would call out in people that I've admired as leaders. So, what about you, Matt? I got to know
That's
what you think.
I can't follow that up. I think I should just pull myself out of the stream and let you guys talk about.
Okay, so I do have to share a quick follow-up story since Heather knows Derek, right? And his ears are probably burning. Is one of the things that I just marveled about is he is the most even keel, very soft, not quite soft spoken, right? Because he definitely he impacts a room. But we used to jokingly say inside of the agency that if he was on the phone with just a combative person, it's like the louder they get, like the softer he speaks. And so our joke was, we called it the suicide hotline voice. So he would just be in his office and you'd hear like just one end of a conversation, you'd hear like someone just barking at him, and then you'd hear this very low like response. It's like, okay, so tell me again why you want to leave, tell me again what we can do. And you just can't argue with someone who refuses to engage you on that level,
Yeah.
because they're trying to push buttons. And I just, to this day, just I couldn't understand how he was able to just maintain that professionalism and just again, stand up guy. And that is crazy, that is how worlds collide. And that's more proof that as big as this world is, this industry is very closely connected.
Yeah. That was one thing that my mentor, and he's actually who I look to as a fantastic leader. Again, that very much like lead by example kind of thing. His name was Dominic. Very much very Italian, very North Jersey. If you asked for a caricature of a North Jersey Italian, the artist would probably draw him sight unseen. But he was all of that. It was all of just knowing that you can't do it all yourself, right? But at the same time, the ability to like get more out of people, like it's the carrot or the stick, right? And he was very much more carrot. Like it's not like a punitive kind of thing. It was almost like he created this environment where like if you let him down, like you felt bad, right? Like it wasn't, you weren't like scared of you weren't scared of like the repercussions. It was legitimately like you wanted to lay down in traffic for him because you didn't want him to feel like you let him down, you know. The other big component to that was gratitude. He to this day is huge on gratitude. My wife kills me during a meal at a restaurant. Like, y'all remember those, like when you used to have meals at restaurants. So a meal at a restaurant, the server would come over like and bring the water and then bring the appetizer and then bring the food, and I would say thank you every single time. And my wife is like, look, you say thank you like 19 times. Like, why do you do that? And I was like, because I want that person to understand that, like, first of all, I don't want any spit in my food, but second of all, that I respect them, right? Like, I respect what they're doing, and I don't look at them as lesser than me, you know. And that was a big deal. But you're right. So something that he also impressed upon me was like, he was like, look, and this I carried from banking too. Your company could get bought and sold 3 times and you'd still have like the same people around you. You know, like your regional manager was one person, you don't see them for 5 years, then all of a sudden they're your regional manager again. Like, it was, you know, you don't burn those bridges because it is such a closely knit community, even it being international and so many people and so many companies and stuff like that. It's like, you know, you never know who you're going to run into. But so all right, so I think that kind of like gives us context. We have some good kind of like foundation to build off of. So the question is, how do you get there? Like those people that we emulate, and the people that I would imagine, at least in some way, shape, or form, we're trying to become, or we're, you know, trying to echo those things. How do you get there? I would say the first thing I would ask is, all right, what kind of training is out there in the marketplace? There's experiential and there's training. So let's start with training. What kind of training is out there in the marketplace that can help get people some of these, you know, leadership qualities, or just a little taste of that experience? I'll stick with you. You're the newly minted professor, Heather. So I'll stick with you on the first one on this.
Oh gosh, I mean, there's hundreds of training programs that are out there, obviously. And yeah, Tony, Matt's keyboard is sounding like a 1980s adding machine at times, right?
I need the one hand Bennett.
No, I've always been a big follower of Stephen Covey's programs and John Maxwell's programs, and those leadership giants that are out there that have kind of like quintessentially defined what leadership is today, and Ken Blanchard as well, but I think some of the leadership training that's available to you in the world today really comes from doing the thing,
You got to do the work.
Because there's all kinds of philosophies about how leaders learn, and really it's about the 70-30-10 principle, where you get, or 70-20-10 principle, where it's really like all about the experience of being a leader, and you grow through what you go through there, and then that 20% of the mentoring piece of everything, and then that 10% of actually like hardcore learning in the classroom or virtual learning opportunities that are out there. But yeah, for me personally, it's about finding those communities of people that are willing to share their leadership expertise in a way that it's relatable as well. And of course, there's tons of those on LinkedIn and various other sites. And then, we sit here today talking about CPCu. I truly believe that CPCu is the cheapest leadership training that you will ever get in your entire life, and gives you the most value for the time and the money that you might invest in it. And it's not just about that designation, because that's a piece of paper that hangs on your wall unless you decide to activate it and use it as your passport for everything.
Yep.
It's all of that volunteer opportunity that you can get to be a part of, if you choose to act, and I think that's the biggest piece of it. You got to choose to act and be a part of it. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a situation where that CPC really is just a plaque on your wall.
Yeah, that's a really good point. What's your thought on it, Precious? Is there specific training or experiential things that you would kind of look to as the shopping list, if we had, in terms of becoming a leader, that you would recommend to anyone?
I definitely agree with, readers are leaders and leaders are readers, right? And so, just kind of even, getting that well-rounded exposure to all of the different schools of thought that are out there, and just, kind of taking and adapting the things that kind of sit well and kind of mesh with, your overall take to it. And so, one of the things that comes to mind is that management and leadership are two different things. I think oftentimes people don't regard themselves as leaders because they don't have direct reports, or, they don't own a business, or, something to that effect. Like they're waiting for some title to magically transform them into being a leader. But being a leader, especially with peer leadership, can just mean, again, operating to this high standard of accountability and integrity, when you're being watched and when you're not being watched. I mean, there's so many different ways that we impact and we lead. So we lead by deed, as much as we do, by word. And so, with that, as far as even raising your hand and saying, I want more exposure and opportunities to add to this skill set, and recognizing it as such, because there's certain things, I guess, from an HR perspective, when we think about leadership, we think about things like the ability to de-escalate, or, the ability to, encourage and develop. And so I think that there's different, the overall acumen can be broken down into different pieces, but moreover, it really just boils down to being someone um, that can inspire somebody in a way, whether it's just our own personal story, or, getting beyond our comfort zone. So a big thing, I guess, in terms of training that I'm a huge fan of is learning how to articulate and tell a story. And so
Mm.
some people are just so, the stage fright is real, right? And
Yeah.
so, Toastmasters and places like that where you can really hone your craft, and kind of just get over being tongue tied is
Yep.
is maybe a good start for someone who is trying to express that they're ready for, to take on more.
That's a really good point. I think a lot of people, and I could be generalizing here, and Mary, I think you're spot on with that comment. I think most of the people, if not all, within the CPCU society, they give off those qualities of true leadership, because, I mean, just think about it. They're essentially signing on to do something that goes above and beyond just whatever is mandated as the minimum, right? Like, so for brokers, like, just getting your state broker's license or whatever, you can hang a shingle and start selling insurance. There's no compulsion to go get the CPCU. And so you're essentially taking that extra step to be a leader in the industry, which is fantastic. And I think the comment that you made, Precious, or maybe it was you, Heather, about kind of like, talking about leading from example, but not just leading from example to like kind of like, beat your chest, or like, how great am I, that kind of thing, but legitimately to get like more out of people. Or that actually seems like a really cold way of saying it. Like, a lot of people say, like, great leaders, like, get more out of someone than another type of leader or whatever. I really don't think it's that. I think it's more great leaders create an environment and give, share tools that allow people to better reach their potential, or to reach the higher heights of their achievements, right? That's really what leadership is. And to your point, Precious, like, a lot of it is being worried about being front and center, because some people aren't boastful and they're worried that you have to be boastful, and it's not like you don't have to sit there and have a, like, how great am I party. And then the other element of it is just, like you said, that stage fright kind of aspect of it, and the fact that, like, to be a supervisor or a manager or be accountable to other people, you have to be front and center. I mean, you have to talk to the group from time to time. You have to be able to emote and convey information in a direct way to a large group of people. And there is, there is a legitimate fear that's out there. And so anything like Toastmasters, that kind of gets you that experience. Not to mention the fact that there's something that's like, I would love to hear you guys' opinion on this. There's something to the accountability of having to present something that is so much greater than just trying to regurgitate it on a test, right? Like when you have to be the teacher and stand out in front of class and be looked at as an authority in whatever you're talking about, there's so much greater in terms of the accountability than just, make sure to mark the right things on the Scantron. Am I like off base? Am I like aggrandizing it too much?
No, I believe that the best way that people really learn, and that someone really has something, is the moment that they can step up and teach it to other
Mm,
people.
mm,
And if they can, and not just regurgitating information or being I'm going to read off my screen kind of person.
yep.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, if that's your style and maybe you're learning and everything. But once someone can really step in and teach others how to and also get them to emulate that behavior in themselves as well, that's the end goal when it comes to like blazing that trail when it comes to being a leader. And I I live this a lot now in this professorship role and everything, where I don't want my students to be overwhelmed by the idea that risk management and insurance is this crazy thing that they can't understand. So I try to provide them opportunities where they can step up and just talk to the subjects that we're speaking of, because it's very technical. It's a textbook style class, but if they can get up and speak about that, um, they've learned it at that point, and it's going to be a part of them. But it is about that legacy carrying that's expected out of leaders a lot of times, and what legacy are they inspiring in other people as
Mm,
well.
mm.
So
That's actually an interesting thought, Precious. The have you had a lot of people have that thought later on in life? I know my mentor did, where he didn't really start thinking about legacy until he was approaching his 60s. Have you had that thought, um, or even done a deep dive into like what your legacy is going to look like or what you want it to be?
Absolutely. I think that that's, really kind of, my North Star at this point, that kind of guides a lot of the decision making, because of course this is definitely more Heather's lane than mine, when you think about the different levels of learning, right? So when you get from being able to just memorize it to being able to synthesize it to being able to apply it, like there's different tests and metrics to be able to figure out, is someone just parroting, what they've heard, or does it actually resonate? And even more importantly, is there an application for this? Because by nature, human beings, we're very self-serving. It's what's in it for me, how is this going to benefit me, why do I need to pay attention? And when you were talking about, just even in engagement and involvement, I remember, back in school when we used to, read a chapter and they would like go around the room. And so you had to make sure you had your finger at the right point on the page because they could call on you in any minute and it'd be really embarrassing, to not be ready, and even more so, I remember, if they pre-assigned out the paragraphs, I was like reading it in my mind ahead of time to make sure that I didn't have any words I was going to stumble through, and that performance piece. And so I really think, we've all been in these situations where certain organizations, they have a value statement or a mission statement, and it just lives in the onboarding space. It's just some pretty words that we have printed in your manual, and it makes for some really pretty art in the break room. But do we really walk it out? Are we really exhibiting these things in every interaction? Because otherwise it just becomes lip service. And so I think that's the danger of, and Tony, I know, like, I keep plugging him all day. I'm telling you, brother, we're going to get like an ACH form signed for all this commission. um but he recently, did the piece where, again, just kind of referring to when you have people who move into leadership roles that have no passion or desire to be there, then it's doubly dangerous, because not only are they not going to excel, but they very potentially can negatively impact the people assigned to them. Right. And so all roads don't have to lead to leadership, especially management, especially when you're, with human capital management. Because if you are hypocritical in any way, that's going to be more damaging than just not even putting it out there that those are the things that you're supposed to stand for.
Yeah, Precious, what you said there really just kind of hit me, because leaders are not people, I believe, who ever look at any situation that they engage with what's in it for them. What's in it for me, basically. It's more about what's in it for everybody else in the room, and what can I do to activate that to happen for them. And that gets back to that whole servant leadership concept that you spoke about before. People will follow those types of leaders. And the reason why is because they are, and this is a John Maxwell thing, but they are rivers of people. They're not reservoirs. Okay. They don't hold back everything for themselves, they pour into other people's lives. And that happens routinely in the CPCU society. um, there are so many people who are just willing and open and engaged in what can I do for everybody else. And I have to tell you, early on in my life, in my career, I always thought networking was just the most uncomfortable thing in the world, because it was like, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to get to know these people because I want to get something out of them.
Yeah.
It's less about that. It's totally not about that. It is
Yeah.
totally about the connection that you make with other people, and what you don't realize is that through that connection, they are pouring back into your life. You have the opportunity to pour into theirs.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think that's so important when it comes to like developing leaders, and in the volunteer space, like we all live in all the various roles and everything that we do. It's not about the title.
Mm.
Leadership is never about the title. Leadership is leading from where you are. And it is people are attracted to people who lead from where they are. And not about what chair I might sit in or what title I might hold. There is an attraction there for individuals that's just natural, because that's somebody that who doesn't care about the hierarchy, who doesn't care about what they're getting out of everything. They're not here to ladder climb. They're here to make sure that everybody else around them is included in the room and has a voice.
Mm.
You know, so that I really appreciate the whole "what's in it for me" topic, because I know that's natural human nature. But what gets made in leaders is that they realize that it's not about what's in it for this person sitting here. It's what's in it for everybody else in the room.
Yeah. The to Mary's earlier point, and to your points, Heather, I have yet to meet anyone in the CPCU society, or for that matter, anyone who has a CPCU really, who at the very least exudes that air, right? Like that air of like I'm better than you, or that air of like my time and my energy is more important than you. Like there is a very altruistic feel to pretty much everyone that I've come across in the society, and even most of the people that have the CPCU, even if they're not really active within the society. Um, I think what's also nice is we work in an industry where, you know, the stability is great, the income potential is great, the longevity that you can have in this career is great, but ultimately at the end of the day, the job is taking care of people that have lost, right? Like that is the job. And so you almost can't exist here without being easily sussed out if you are not genuine or if you're just in it for the money, right? And so the people that are in it for kind of like I don't even know how to put it, like, you know, the very self-centric reasons, right? They everyone can like point to them, like they can't hide in the crowd, like you know who they are, like you can single them out really quickly. And most of the people that get the CPCU designation, like they're doing it for a bunch of reasons, but one of those reasons is so that they can help people better, right? Like I have yet to talk to a broker that got their CPCU designation, like the true believers, right? They got their CPCU designation not because they thought it was going to be a bump in pay, not because they thought it was just going to be another credential on their business card. They were like, legitimately, I want to make sure that I'm helping my clients better so that I know all the ins and outs, so that I know where the gaps in the coverage are, so that I know when one carrier has, you know, a coverage form that's not great for this particular risk and another one would be the best, you know, place for that risk to live. And that all kind of contributes to this environment of leadership, like you said, that is this, you know, river, this kind of like sharing of the bounty, so to speak, and really like one of the things that we went through. I would love to hear your guys' opinion on this. I'll put it to Precious first. Like one of the things that everyone was worried about is like, you know, the retirements and like we're gonna have a brain drain and all this other stuff. And I was like, well, you know what's funny is most of the people that I've worked with that would be considered, you know, the reservoirs of knowledge, they didn't sit there and just keep that reservoir to themselves. Every single day they were actively sharing that reservoir with others. And so their legacy, like they wouldn't leave and all of a sudden, like, you know, revenue goes down 20% because the knowledge is gone, right? Like they would go, but they have done at least a part of the job of disseminating that, you know, institutional knowledge to the people that came after them. I'm like, am I off? Like, am I being too glass half full, Precious?
No, I think that, the free flow of information is possible when everyone is in a position of you have to be pretty secure with who you are in
Mm,
order to be comfortable sharing info so that you don't feel like, you're giving away your secret sauce, right? And so, I've said that over the years that, I even if somebody was reading off of my play card, they would never be able to execute it exactly the way that I do because that's who I am, right? And so, early on in my career, when, given leadership opportunities, I thought that the responsibility was on me to like create this little army of mini me's, right? I'm like, okay, they like the way I sell. I got to teach people how to sell the way I do. They like the way I work. That's how I got the promotion. And so now I have to have all these little spin-offs, thing one, thing two, right? That are just out here. But then I realized that was, first of all, that was ego and pride. Because, people, human beings, professionals, adults, right? They possess, gifting in their own right. And so my job is to, and we've mentioned it earlier, to recognize something in them, give them opportunities to stretch and pull it out of them, and not let them um settle for what is beneath their potential. And so when you can get that buy-in and they say, "Hey, you know what? I am great. I can do this, you know, and to your point, not for a self-serving, well, I need to increase, you know, revenue by this amount. So I need you to, you know, just kind of beat yourself up until we get there. But, you know, the whole concept that people should be better off for having engaged with you, not worse off. You know, getting real science nerdy, you know, the whole concept of energy, it's neither created or destroyed, it's only transferred.
Mm.
And so that transfer of knowledge is the same way. And so
Deep. We're
when
going deep. I love it.
when we, you know, think about, you know, from a standpoint of succession planning, and now that I've reached a point, the way that I'm able to leverage and have the greatest impact is not just as an individual contributor, but if I can also show somebody how I fell in love with this industry, how I've been able to do the things that I do, you know, we have a responsibility as leaders to prepare that next round or generation, you know, of leaders that are coming, because that is what we owe back to an industry that has provided so well for us.
That's prophetic. That's like that's I mean that's also like a it's like a like you said, it's like not created or destroyed. Like it's given, and so we owe it the ability to continue to breathe and grow and you know whatever the next iteration is, like, you know, pay it forward almost. I love that kind of like that kind of take. The so I've like a bunch of different ways I can go with this. I don't want to be negative, right? Like in the pantheon of like energy, like I don't want to bring negative energy into this. But you know, what's funny is, Heather, you mentioned one of the pitfalls of people, especially when it comes to like networking and stuff like that, or just leadership in general, also has this pitfall where people are always kind of like either one going through the motions, or they're in it. They have this like in it for me mentality, like. You know, I think I told the story on Sell Like a CPCu. I don't know if I've told the story here, but, you know, I met my wife at a Chamber of Commerce event. You know, that was the ultimate pinnacle of my networking. I don't know who sold who. I definitely outkicked my coverage, so I like to think that I did the sales job. But you know, the experience I always had during those events was it was so mechanical. It was, hi, my name's, you know, like, here's my elevator pitch. This is what I do. Let me sell you something. And then the other person's like, okay, it's my turn to talk. All right, here's my elevator pitch. Here's who I am. Let me sell you something, right? Like leadership and networking are like there's components of finding out the mechanical piece of who someone is, but it goes like way further than that. It's like it becomes this like almost relationship, right? And you don't necessarily have to surpass the bounds of what is a good, healthy professional relationship. You just have to have a good professional relationship. And so those people that are good leaders, I think they create either the environment or just actively promote that good relationship, right? Like you know, forgive my language, but they give a shit. Right? Like there are so many people out there that feign interest in those people that would be, you know, their direct reports or their teammates and stuff like that. It's like the whole from Office Space, like Lumbergh, and he walks by and he's like, he's got the cup of coffee, right? Like most offices like have someone who's like that, and they're like, hey, how's it going? And you start to answer, and then they interrupt you with like, well, my weekend, what, you know, like that's like the mentality of the leader who is just kind of like, all right, what do I have to do to portray leadership, and not legitimate, like not what I actually have to do to be a leader. What's the Gen X word for it is poser. Is that what the Gen X word is, right? Like,
Yep.
I'm trying to think if there's like a Gen Z or a Zoomer word for it. I'm like, it's highly sus. I'll tell you that much. I know that word too. I played one or two rounds of Among Us. I know that word. It is highly sus. But you know, I think also, do you think you have a good BS filter, Heather? Like, I think bad leaders think that people have bad BS filters. I don't. I think most people have good BS filters.
Well, one quality that I can say, and not to bring the room down again, that I
Yeah.
can say that is something, it's one of those pet peeves for me.
Mm,
I absolutely cannot stand when people give lip service
mm,
to,
Mm-hmm.
especially to like rallying cries. Okay.
yes.
I would rather that you tell me like it is and be real with me, be transparent with me, because I can spot a fake so fast. It's not even funny. You know, you can just see that quality in people because it's almost like there's this aura around them that you feel and you get this vibe. Those
Oh yeah.
people who are just real, transparent, authentic about who they are, even if it's a little rough around the edges at times, I would much rather you be that person with me and that type of leader around me
Mm.
than to constantly fill me with that. I must, I've got to portray this aura of fakeness, you
Yeah.
know. It is nothing kills the morale of the people that are reporting to somebody that actually has a title of being a leader, um, than to try to follow someone like that. And then
Mm.
that causes that infighting. And then the leader steps back and goes, well, what's going on? I don't really know. I don't understand why these people aren't producing the results that I need or doing these things.
Yep.
Um, don't be fake.
Mm.
Be real with people. Even if you say a few curse words occasionally, that's okay. That shows me you're real. Actually shows me you have a very expansive vocabulary as well.
I don't have that problem, Heather. I'm
Yeah.
good on that front. I what are your thoughts on that, Precious?
So, when you were talking about chamber events, and I laughingly talk about things BC, right? Like before COVID.
Mm,
um, when you would go to these meet and greets that were happy hours, and it was like the reiteration of like the hostel high school cafeteria. Can
mm,
I sit at your table? Am I welcome? Am I getting the look? There's a conversation in progress. Do I try to double dutch my way into it, or am I going to look like I'm kind of out of place? Is there a lot of inside jokes happening or jargon that's over my head that's basically sending me these signals that I'm not welcome here,
yeah.
And so I had an experience, again, early career, where I had gone to a chamber mixer, and I sit next to who I thought was, friendly looking enough face, and introduced myself and was like, what's your name? I got like a first name only. I got these very short, just like one word question answers, right? I'm like, oh, so what do you do? Sales. So I'm just like trying to pull conversation out of this person, and this person's not giving me like the time of day. So all of a sudden, the president of the chamber, who's actually who invited me to come, like
Mm.
walks over and says, "Oh, Precious, I'm so glad you made it." And this person completely whips around in her stool and was like, "Oh yeah, we were just talking about da 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 da." And I looked, I'm like, "We were?" Because
Ah!
I think I was talking to the back of your head or to your side profile, because you wouldn't even give me eye contact. But all of a sudden, somebody else validated my existence and my
Mm,
worth.
mm-hmm.
And that just fell so flat, because immediately, I mean, the look on my face, I'm not really great with, masking my feelings, but I mean, my jaw just dropped. And I
Yeah.
started to say, "Oh yeah, you mean all of those attempts at conversation that you dodged, like the Matrix? That was us
Mm,
talking about a matter."
yeah.
Um, and so I think about that, moving forward, especially as a chapter leader. When you see new faces, and like down here in Dallas, we would do a whole, if this is your first time, please stand, who invited you. We give kudos to people who brought somebody with, and we tried to, for a while it was really, some we would try to sit together like as a board, right? So we'd have like a reserve table up front, and that was really just to make sure that we could sit back down after getting up and participating. But then later we kind of adapted more of a strategy of everyone needs to head a table. right?
Mm.
We need to be out there amongst them instead of just congregated with one another, so that people feel welcome and they return and we find out, why they came. And so, how that impact, applies to leadership is the same way. When you recognize that everyone has their own needs and wants and motivations, and you don't approach it as this very blanketed, generic approach, and you actually ask questions and wait for answers, and you actually, like I said, you're not just giving it that lip service and those optics that, oh, look at me amongst the people. You're like, no, no,
Mm.
no, you need to truly make yourself available. I think Gary Vee, in one of his recent posts, again, the reminder that leadership, we serve them, not vice versa. We work
Yeah.
for our teams don't work for us.
Yeah.
And if that's not your, if you don't truly believe that, then that has to be step one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
got to flip that. You got to flip that hierarchy.
Yeah.
It's not about the base pushing everybody, pushing everybody. To me, it's almost you flatten that hierarchy and everybody lifts together when it
Yeah.
comes to the leadership roles that are out there. But yeah, I there's so much that you can do to build your leadership cred, street cred, capabilities, all those types of things when it comes to the CPCU Society. Throw that back to you, Matt, now, because I know we got a ton of stuff that's out there for people to be able to be involved in.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So really quickly, I'm trying to be respectful. Heather was like, "Look, I need to get out of here pretty efficiently today, so I'm going to try and be respectful of her time and get her out of here on a good time frame." So really quickly, we do have there's some upcoming webinars that actually Heather and I are doing, but there's always leadership webinars that are coming out through the CPCU Society. Heather and I will be doing 2 webinars coming up. I forget, it's the 12th and the 19th, right, Heather?
12th and 19th, yep.
Yeah, 12th and 19th. We're going to be talking about virtual meetings and how to kind of like be good leaders of chapters, but also like inclusive and get people engaged for virtual meetings. The nuts and bolts of setting them up, but also making sure that they're a success. There's also a leadership training that's available through the institutes. I'm not going to scroll all the way through this, but if you just look up, I think the Institute's Leadership Acceleration, this comes up, and this is really kind of like organizational leadership training. And again, to Heather's point, the CPCU is just as cost effective, if not better. So I don't want to take money away from the institute. So if you already have the designation, definitely look into this for your organization. Or if you're not a good test taker, you can always look at this. But the CPCU, as far as the bang for the buck, is the best route to take if you're an insurance professional. But this is kind of like organizational leadership training, which is absolutely fantastic that the institutes affords. And then the other thing that you can do is subscribe to How to CPCU and maybe like find out some good stuff, and then be able to deploy that in the society or in your professional life. So that's my little sales pitch. So I want to say thank you so much, Heather. Appreciate it as always. Precious, thank you so much for pulling double duty today. You did a double. That's very much appreciated. And congratulations again on the new insurance brokerage. So Scratch Agent here, Scratch Agency owner, gonna take the world by storm.
Yes. It's always fun to be able to hang with the cool kids. So my pleasure. This is the highlight of my week. I appreciate you guys letting me come crash your party here.
We will host you anytime, Precious. You're part of the in group. You're a VIP here. So yeah, thank you everyone. Appreciate it. We come at you every single Wednesday at 5:30 Eastern, 4:30 Central. See how I did that, Precious? I threw that in there for you, and
that was very inclusive.
Heather's on that too. So we're taking care of multiple inclusive things here. But yeah, we'll come at you every single Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And so definitely like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you know when we go live or when those recorded episodes hit the YouTube channel or the social media platform of your choosing. So with that, thank you all. Have a very good weekend. Have a good night. Stay warm if you're somewhere cold. And Precious, we are all jealous of you if you're in weather that's anything greater than 30 degrees right now. May and June cannot come soon enough. I'll tell you that much. So everyone have a good night. We will see you next week. Bye now.
Guys.
Bye, guys.